Another glitch in the Matrix video. If you're not sure what that means, it's those unbelievable, unexplainable moments that feel like a bug in our reality, making us question what's possible and what's not. Some of these experiences might feel familiar because lots of people have experienced some form of it. In this video, we have 8 relatively recent Reddit posts sharing their strange experiences.
Vanishing man in bar. When I was about 20, I lived alone in an inner-city neighborhood in Atlanta. I was in college and pretty lonely, so I'd sometimes go to a local bar and read. One night, just before Halloween, I was at the bar, and a guy sat next, and started chatting with me. He was a bit older, blonde hair and quite friendly. We shoot the shit for about a half hour, when he looks at me with this serious look and says, "You should leave this place now." And then he vanished, like, in front of me. Just gone. I felt this fear and left immediately. The next morning I was walking to the train for school and passed the same bar. It was taped off as a crime scene. There were police all over. I asked a bystander what's up, and they said a man had been murdered in the bathroom the night before. What the f***? Dialed the wrong number, found who I was looking for. In the mid-80s I was calling my girlfriend from a payphone, don't remember why, dialing from memory. I'm not sure if I dialed the correct number, but when I asked for my girlfriend by name, I was told, with confusion obvious in her mother's voice, to hold on a minute. I had not been connected to my girlfriend's house, but called one of her mother's friend's house, who they had just stopped in to visit. How this happened, I never knew. Reply, was standing on a corner waiting to cross the road in the 1980s and a payphone on the street started ringing. I picked it up. It was a wrong number, but I knew the person on the phone. My city had a population of 1.5 million at the time.
Just experienced my most clear glitch in the Matrix and kiddo did too. So random and bizarre and I can't wrap my head around it. My husband made pizza rolls for our kids. I got them out of the oven and on plates, each plate had 10 pizza rolls, and walked over to set my daughter's plate on the table. She is 6 years old. She's autistic, mostly only relevant because of her reaction, and was excitedly jumping up and down by the table, and I happened to stumble, and 2 pizza rolls fell off the plate, falling towards her, so she reached out to catch them, and before her eyes they just vanished right before she caught them. Totally gone, not even in a blink. Eyes were wide open and they just disappeared like a magic trick. I thought maybe they didn't actually fall off and we both just panicked and thought they did, but there was only 8 on the plate now, so clearly they did. We stared at each other for a moment and she said, "Wah." What? I was speechless for a moment, then was like, okay, they couldn't have just disappeared, so we looked under the table, all over the room. Finally I call my dogs and like, screw it, even if they eat them I just want them found. Nothing, and they would 100% find them if they were there, and they're not even sniffing around like food had recently been there. They're just gone. And my daughter is so pissed, lol, enough that I made her a couple more. But what the f***? I've never experienced something like that, at least not literally in front of my eyes, and the fact my daughter saw it too. She's literally still moving everything in the room around 20 minutes later because, well, how is that possible? She wants an explanation, but I've got nothing. I nearly met myself? Alright, this happened about 2 months ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. I've got no explanation, maybe one of you does? I work a pretty boring 9-to-5 job in a mid-sized office building. Every day, I go to the same coffee shop across the street around 2 p.m. for my caffeine fix. I'm such a regular that the barista, Sam, automatically starts making my order when he sees me in line. On this particular day, I left my office a little later than usual, around 2:15. When I reached the door in the lobby, I realized I'd left my keycard on my desk on the other side of the building. But that was no problem, the secretary, Sarah, signed me out on paper. This happens all the time. As I crossed the street and approached the coffee shop, I saw myself. Me, wearing the same clothes, same bag, same everything. Standing at the counter inside, chatting with Sam. I froze. My heart was racing, but my brain was like, no, you're imagining this. Maybe it's someone who just looks like you. But then this other me turned slightly, and I got a perfect look at their face. It was my face. Down to the tiny birthmark I have under one eye. I panicked. I turned around and walked back across the street without going inside. My hands were shaking. I kept telling myself it wasn't real, that I must have been overtired or something. But here's the thing, when I got back to my desk and looked in my bag, the coffee cup was there. The exact same coffee I was planning to order, with my name written on it in Sam's handwriting. I never went into the shop. I never bought the coffee. But there it was, hot and fresh like I'd just picked it up. I looked up at the clock, and the time was still 2:15, the usual time I'd get back after heading over and grabbing my coffee. But I'd definitely been outside for longer than a minute. It was like my timeline diverged. One version of me had split away at 2 p.m. and gone to grab the coffee, while I had stayed behind. And then when returning to the building, our timelines had merged again. Even scarier than this thought was which one had I been at that time? Was I the original me, or was I some kind of duplicate for that time? I spent the rest of my workday just feeling very off about the whole thing. I didn't even drink the coffee. It got me to wondering about the stories of shapeshifters or doppelgangers I'd heard in the past, and I had to wonder if this is where some of those came from. Maybe two timelines split or converge and you can be at two places at once for a short time. I wonder how many times this sort of thing happens without you noticing. I haven't told anyone at work because, let's be real, they'd think I'm insane. But the secretary at the office does remember me heading out, and she remembers me having forgotten my key card. But she says it happened at 2, and it even says so on the log where she signed me out. I've gone back to the coffee shop since, and everything's been normal. Though weirdly enough, Sam didn't remember me coming. The next day when I went to grab my coffee, he asked if I'd been off sick the day before. So, if he never gave me a coffee that day, where did the coffee in my bag come from? Some parallel universe that collided with this one for a split second? How can him and Sarah remember things so differently? Which one of these is even real? I don't know. But I still have the cup. I wrote on it in red marker, "This came from nowhere." It's in my kitchen cupboard now. I keep checking on it, just to remind myself that I didn't imagine the whole thing. Child I'd never seen before, knows me and my mother's name. Quite a while back my mom was taking me to get a checkup on my right foot because I tore a ligament in it, jumping off my high school bleachers a week or so before. We were going to a doctor I'd never been to before, wasn't my usual PCP as he recommended us to this place. The lobby was fairly busy, but not overflowing with people. In this flux of people was a little boy, and his father, both of whom my mom nor I ever, and I mean ever, met. Out of the blue while getting in line to check in, this boy looks at us and says my name and mother's name. Very childishly, not sing-songy but not monotone. My mom says, did he just say our names? And after asking me that, he and his father were taken to the back as it was their turn to be seen. I never saw them come out, I never saw them again. To this day I replay the scene and wonder what the that was about. I've never asked my mom about it since then, and maybe I should.
Physical mirroring? Not sure what to call this. I have an 11-year-old son and very often, not always, but in many instances, a minor physical injury or ailment will manifest in both of us at the same time. For example, on Thursday, he was at an evening event and fell hard while chasing a hayride. I was at home, and tripped and fell into the coffee table. When I picked him up a bit later, he was eager to show me his bruised and swollen left knee and scraped right elbow. I had the same bruises and scrapes in the same places. This happens all the time. A couple of weeks ago I burned my thumb on a hot glue gun, resulting in a blister. A few days later he showed me a blister on his own thumb. Pulled muscles, bug bites, canker sores, stubbed toes. All minor, random incidents with visible identical manifestations or comparable evidence have been consistent for as long as I can remember. It would make sense if the event causing the mark happened in each other's presence. Maybe one of us subconsciously imitated the other. Or if it was environmental, like allergies or a sunburn. Or something contagious like a cold or fever, or a hereditary symptom, well, other than clumsiness, lol, but these examples do not fall into a pattern like that. Anyone have a similar, persistent experience? Reply, there is a scar that 3 generations have in my family. We all have an identical scar in our left eyebrow, all caused by slipping and bashing our heads on something metal, leaving a cut so bad it needed stitches. Elevator glitch. A few days ago, at work, I used the elevator. I normally take the stairs, and a strange thing happened. There are 2 elevators in this spot. The one on the left had been out of order for a few days, so when that one was the one that opened, I thought to myself that it better not break while I was on it. I entered the doors and hit the button to go down a floor. When the doors opened, and I exited the elevator, I was exiting the other elevator. I somehow came out of the elevator on the right instead of the one on the left that I know I got on. I immediately turned and made sure what I thought happened. I have no idea how I got on the elevator on the left and got off the elevator on the right. These elevators are 2 different sizes. One is made for gurneys to be able to use, and has the doors in the front and back. The other is smaller and only has doors in the front. I got on the smaller, 1 set of doors, elevator, and got off the larger, 2 sets of doors, elevator. I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to reconcile in my mind what happened, but it still bugs me. I only know for sure I got on the smaller elevator, because I remember saying to myself that I hope it didn't break again while I was on it. Glitch that happened to me a few years ago. In early 2020, I was working as an office manager, and we had a suggestion box that was affixed to the wall of the office. It was actually for employees to leave suggestions internally. We had the box, lock and key, custom made for the company. Shortly before COVID hit in March 2020, I went to collect the suggestions from the suggestion box, and I realized the key was missing. I was the only person with access to where the key was stored, as it was locked up itself. Technically my boss could have also retrieved it, but he would have had no reason to, and he confirmed it wasn't him. I was going to order a new key to be made, but a few days later COVID hit and I got laid off, so I just didn't think about the key again. While I was still laid off, I was walking my dog in a park we had never been to before. During the time I was laid off, we explored a bunch of new trails and parks in our area. While we were walking, something caught his attention in the grass, and when I looked to see what it was the key from the suggestion box from my work. Freaked out and confused, I picked it up and put it in my pocket, hoping to convince myself of a rational explanation. The main reason I knew it was the same key is because it had a yellow plastic tag on it where I had hand printed what the key was for, and that yellow tag was still attached. I was laid off for a total of 2.5 months, and when I returned to work I brought the key with me. Sure enough, it unlocked the suggestion box. I still have no clue how this was possible or what the significance of that incident was. The park was a good 20 minutes away from both my home and workplace in a totally different direction, and that was the first time we had ever been to that park. I still think about it sometimes.
Thank you for watching till the end. Subscribe, like and comment if you enjoyed the video. See you next time, Reddit listener.